Google just made one of the most audacious bets in tech history, and hardly anyone's talking about it. The search giant is now backing Proxima Fusion, a German nuclear fusion startup that's racing to build Europe's first commercial power plant. But here's the twist nobody expected. This isn't about saving the planet or fighting climate change. It's about powering the artificial intelligence revolution. And it reveals a shocking reality about where AI is actually headed. Because right now, every single GPT answer you ask, every Claude response you get, every AI model generating images or video, all of it is consuming electricity at scales we've never seen before. A single conversation with an AI chatbot can use as much power as running a laptop for a whole week. And Google's executives just realized something terrifying. Traditional coal plants, solar panels, and wind turbines combined can't keep up with what AI demands. So the tech giant is betting hundreds of millions of dollars on a technology that scientists said was decades away from working. This isn't about innovation anymore. It's about desperation. It's about a company finally admitting that artificial intelligence needs more power than entire nations can currently produce. And that changes everything. Understand why Google is suddenly obsessed with nuclear power. You need to know what's happening inside modern data centers. These aren't small operations. They're absolutely massive. Google, Microsoft, Meta, OpenAI, they all run warehouse-sized facilities packed with tens of thousands of servers running 24/7. And here's the thing most people don't realize. AI models are exponentially hungrier for electricity than regular software. A traditional web search, tiny power draw, training a 200 trillion parameter AI model, absolutely insane. We're talking about facilities that consume as much electricity as a small city. And the problem keeps getting worse because AI is getting smarter, which means bigger models, which means more power consumption. Picture it this way. 5 years ago, an AI data center might use 50 megawatts of power. Today's cutting-edge facilities use 500 megawatts. That's a tenfold increase in 1 decade. Google's leaders looked at their expansion plans, looked at their AI ambitions, and realized they had a fundamental problem. There literally isn't enough power available. The grid can't support what they want to build. Every solar farm and wind turbine gets built into someone's plans already, and that's why they are looking at something radical. Here's what most people get wrong about fusion. They confuse it with nuclear fission, which is what powers traditional nuclear plants and what destroyed Chernobyl. Fission is splitting atoms. Fusion is the opposite. It's smashing atoms together so hard they merge into something heavier, and that collision releases absolutely massive amounts of energy. Think of it this way. Fission is like breaking a log and burning it. Fusion is like the sun. It's what's been powering everything in our solar system for 5 billion years. The sun isn't running on fission. It's running on fusion. Two hydrogen atoms crash together at incomprehensible temperatures and pressures. They merge into helium, and the leftover energy explodes outward as light and heat. We've been trying to replicate that on Earth for 6 decades, and it's brutally hard. The temperatures required are hotter than the sun's core. You need to contain plasma that wants to destroy anything it touches. Most fusion experiments need more energy to run the reactor than the fusion reaction actually produces, so you lose money just by turning it on. That's why scientists joked for 60 years that fusion was always 30 years away. But Proxima Fusion thinks they've finally cracked something real. Most fusion companies have been chasing the same design for decades. The tokamak, which looks like a giant donut where plasma spins around in a circle held by magnetic fields. It's intuitive, but it's got fundamental problems that nobody's solved. Proxima Fusion is different. They're building a Stellarator, which is a far more complex, twisted design that scientists invented decades ago, but mostly abandoned because it was too complicated to build. But here's what changed. Computers got powerful enough to model it perfectly, and manufacturing got precise enough to actually build it. A Stellarator doesn't rely on plasma staying in a smooth circle. It uses a 3-dimensional twisted geometry that's way more stable. Think of it like the difference between balancing a pencil on its tip versus balancing it in a mathematically optimized cradle. The Stellarator is that cradle. It's self-stabilizing in ways the tokamak simply isn't. Proxima's specific version is called Helion, and they're targeting something nobody else is, net energy gain in a commercial timeframe, not just a research experiment. Their first demonstration reactor is supposed to come online in the next few years, not decades. Most fusion companies are still working on proving the basic science works. Proxima is already designing the power plant. When you stack up the options for powering AI data centers, nothing comes close to fusion. Solar and wind, renewable, sure, but intermittent. You'd need massive battery storage, and even the best batteries today can only store hours of power, not days or weeks. Coal and natural gas, cheap and reliable, but you're literally burning ancient fossils. And every data center doing this accelerates climate change while still not producing nearly enough power for what Google wants to do. Traditional nuclear fission, this is the closest competitor. A modern nuclear plant produces around 1,000 megawatts reliably, but building one takes 10 to 15 years, costs $10 to $20 billion, and generates intense political opposition. Fusion, if it works, is different. Same clean baseload power as fission. Same reliability, but it produces less radioactive waste. It can't have a meltdown like fission can, and it's actually what powers the universe. Other fusion startups exist: Commonwealth Fusion Systems in Boston, TAE Technologies in California, China's East Reactor, but they're all years or decades behind their own timelines. Proxima is betting everything that their Stellarator design works where everyone else failed. And Google's backing them because even a 30% chance of success is better than building coal plants or waiting for solar technology that doesn't exist yet. Imagine this, it's 2030. Proxima's fusion reactor comes online successfully. Europe suddenly has abundant, clean, basically unlimited power pouring out of one facility. What changes? First, the economics of AI completely flip. Right now, Google and other tech giants are constrained by power. They literally can't build the servers they want because there's nowhere to plug them in. With fusion, that constraint disappears. Google could suddenly build data centers 3 times as large. That means 3 times as many AI models training simultaneously, 3 times as many queries being answered, 3 times as much compute power available for breakthroughs. The entire research timeline for AI accelerates overnight. Second, Europe becomes a superpower in the AI race. Right now, the United States and China dominate because they have the scale and the power. If Europe gets reliable fusion first, suddenly European companies can compete at scale. That reshapes the global technology balance. Third, every other country rushes to build their own fusion plants. The race begins, and this is where it gets wild. If fusion becomes as reliable and scalable as Google believes, then the real constraint on AI development isn't smarter algorithms anymore, it's politics. How fast can nations approve new reactors? That becomes the bottleneck, not physics. So when does this actually happen? That's the critical question. Proxima says their first reactor demonstrating meaningful energy output comes online around 2026 or 2027, which is very soon. But here's where the plan gets fuzzy. Demonstrating it works in a lab is completely different from building a commercial power plant that runs 24/7 and actually feeds electricity to the grid. The engineers need to prove: 1. That it produces more power than it consumes consistently, not just once in a test. 2. That it can maintain that over hours and days, not just seconds. 3. That the equipment survives the extreme conditions without breaking down constantly. 4. That they can actually build this at scale without costs exploding. And that's just the technical side. Then you need regulatory approval from the European Union, environmental reviews, and local approvals from whatever country hosts it. Most people estimate realistically that a commercial fusion plant generating grid power is still 5 to 10 years away, even with Proxima's speed. But here's the important part. Everyone thought the timeline was 30 years away. The fact that someone credible is saying 5 to 10 years is already shifting how the entire tech industry plans for power. And when Google backs you with hundreds of millions, that credibility matters. Here's what this all adds up to. The story of AI's future isn't being written by OpenAI or Anthropic or any model maker. It's being written by power engineers and physicists trying to solve a problem nobody talks about in the press. AI companies need infinite power to build infinite compute, and that's physically impossible with solar and batteries. That's why Google's betting on fusion. That's why Microsoft just signed a deal to restart a nuclear power plant. That's why every tech company is suddenly obsessed with energy. This is the real technology race happening right now, not the competition over whose AI is smarter. That gap closes fast, but whose AI gets unlimited electricity first, and that determines who wins the next decade. When you see headlines about Google's latest AI breakthrough or OpenAI's new model, remember, those breakthroughs are only possible because someone solved the power problem. And if Proxima succeeds, if that German startup actually cracks fusion, then the constraint disappears entirely. AI becomes limited only by money and talent, not physics, and everything accelerates. That's the stakes. That's why Google is betting billions on a German fusion startup you've never heard of. That's the future being built right now, and it starts with power.